Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The top stories that we're tracking for you this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty recover yesterday's losses led by Reliance Industries and HDFC Bank. Sensex is now within the touching distance of 73,000. Midcaps underperform, end the day flat. India's workforce participation and employment rates have improved, but employment conditions remain poor, says a report by the International Labour Organization. India's youth account for 83% of the unemployed population. The rate of unemployment among those with secondary education has nearly doubled in the last 2 decades.
Think that every social or economic problem that there is a government intervention is not quite correct. We need to get out of that mindset.
Chief Economic Advisor Anantha Nageshwaran says massive government hiring is not the answer to the unemployment problem, urges states and the private sector to do more on job creation. Outgoing Consumer Affairs Secretary Rohit Kumar Singh hits out at surrogate advertising for alcohol and tobacco, says companies will have to provide 3 years details of expenses on brand extension promotion, adds that if the ad spends are out of proportion, it would mean that companies are indulging in surrogate advertising. Kolkata-based Berger Paint says it is highly improbable that new entrant Birla Opus, which recently announced discount, will meet its targets, as Berger will not get into the price cut game. Adds the company is cautious about competition but not worried. The Delhi High Court is likely to deliver its verdict on the bail plea by Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal this evening. Kejriwal's lawyer Abhishek Manu Singhvi argues that the arrest ahead of elections, when the Model Code of Conduct is in force, impinges on the level playing field. ED sought more time to file its response to Kejriwal's plea. The Indian government summons a senior American diplomat after their State Department spokesperson called for a fair and timely legal process for Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. The External Affairs Ministry said nations are expected to be respectful of India's sovereignty and internal affairs. Israel steps up airstrikes on southern Gaza despite mounting international pressure for an immediate ceasefire. Israeli Defense Forces and Hezbollah's militants also exchanged fire after 7 Lebanese and an Israeli were killed in a shootout at the border. Uddhav Thackere's Shiv Sena UBT announces names of candidates for 17 Maharashtra constituencies, nominates sitting MP Arvind Sawant from Mumbai South, gives tickets to Uddhav confidant Anil Desai from Mumbai South Central. Congress leader Sanjay Nirupam hits out at Thackeray's party, says it seems like there is a plan to bury the Congress in Mumbai. Let's start with the day's market action. The benchmark indices did recover from yesterday's losses, closed in the green, slightly shy of the intraday high. Energy and realty stocks led the gains. FMCG and consumer durable stocks were the laggards today. The mid-cap index underperformed in comparison. That's the Nifty for you, 119 points higher. The Sensex adding about 500 plus points. The Nifty Bank up by 0.5%. The Nifty mid-cap closing absolutely flat. Surabhi joins us now to wrap up the day's market action for us. Surabhi.
Well, a pullback green day on the street with large caps leading the rally. But the broader market having a bit of a curious session because the mid-cap index ended completely flat, but the small-cap index, that was up almost 1%. A lot of the moves on the large-cap side were perhaps driven by year-end factors. Typically, funds do a bit of NAV dressing, NAV management, and there are year-end allocations that happen. And perhaps that was one trigger which propelled the large-cap screen. I'll come back to large caps in just a bit, but let's also talk about the broader market, because what was heartening to note was that the breadth of the market started improving today after 2 days of lackluster breadth. We had an advanced decline ratio of almost 1:1. Remember, I told you that the small cap index was actually much better off than the mid cap index as well. So now large caps, what led the rally? Well, the big titans themselves. Reliance Industries was the best performer of the day, almost a 3% gain on that stock. L&T, Adani Ports, Bharti Airtel, these were some of the names that were firing away quite well. And for a change, banks did not disappoint, at least the private sector ones. The Bank Nifty was in step with the Nifty. And from the likes of Kotak Mahindra Bank, Axis, IndusInd, HDFC Bank, you had gains from, ranging from 1% to almost 2%. Good day for select auto stocks as well. Bajaj Auto had a very good session. Maruti and M&M were the other ones that had a 1 to 2% gain going for themselves. The problem part of the market continues to be IT, and there was additional pressure coming in on Infosys, TCS, LTI, Mindtree. So that situation hasn't quite resolved itself. Back to the broader market move. As I said, it was a lot of the smaller stocks that were doing well, particularly stocks which were pushed higher by favorable brokerage commentaries. And Some examples would include an InfoEdge, ABB, and a Gravita. All these stocks rallying 5-6% because of positive broker notes. Angel One rallying very, very smartly, 8-9% higher. They're doing a QIP, raising some funds. CDSL and Aster DM were in focus because of very large block trades in which certain insiders, certain existing investors have believed to have exited their positions. Now, the Nifty is just about 1.8% away from the all-time highs. It's been a great year for the stock market. Tomorrow is the last trading day of the fiscal, and the bulls will hope that the index closes in on that gap with the all-time peak.
Surabhi, many thanks for joining us. Speaking of market action, shares of Wockhardt hitting the upper circuit after it raised over 480 crore rupees via qualified institutional placement. The pharma company issued over 92 lakh shares at a 5% discount to the floor price. Funds owned and managed by veteran investors Madhusudan Kela and Prashant Jain are part of the institutions that have invested in the QIP. Grasim Industries paint brand Birla Opus recently unveiled its pricing, which stands at a 5% discount to its peer Asian Paints. Several brokerage firms, including Jefferies and IIFL, expect the competition to intensify in the paint sector with the entry of a new player. Speaking with CNBC-TV18, Berger Paints CEO Abhijit Roy said they are cautious but not worried about competition, adding that they will not get into the price cut game. Roy also said it's highly improbable that a new entrant will meet the targets that they have set out for themselves.
As of now, whatever we have seen, we are cautious but not worried. I would place it in that manner. We need to keep watching this space, more closely. But whatever so far we have seen, they have introduced certain products. We have tested those products. The quality of it is quite similar to what we have already in the marketplace. Nothing spectacularly different there. The pricing that we have seen, from the leader, it is 5% lower, except for luxury category, in which, it is priced at par with the leader. We also operate at prices which are about 4 to 5% below the leader. So it's matched to our prices almost. Industry, and it is not only in India, it is worldwide that it takes time. Incremental steps have to be taken. It doesn't happen like in a burst unless the existing players make some mistakes. So in my opinion, therefore, it will be a slow grinding process. It will not be as fast as possibly anticipated. It might be lesser than what the projections have been given. I don't think it is impossible to achieve those targets, but it is highly improbable that the targets will be hit. Now, this year, we expect that with increased competition, this 12% volume growth may become 11% volume growth, sort of.
Well, that's Berger Paints CEO on the arrival of Birla Opus in the paints market. India's employment rates have improved in recent years after a period of long-term deterioration. However, employment conditions remain poor, with wages stagnating and high levels of youth unemployment. Now, these are the findings of a report released by the International Labour Organization, or the ILO. The ILO report highlights that India's youth account for 83% of the unemployed population. According to the ILO, the jobless rate among education youth has also risen during the COVID-19 pandemic. The proportion of young people with a secondary education among the total unemployed has nearly doubled from just over 35% in 2000 to nearly 66% in 2022. Now, releasing the report, the Chief Economic Advisor, V. Anantha Nageshwaran, said it's not correct to think that the government must intervene in addressing every social or economic problem. He said massive central government hiring is not the answer to India's unemployment problem, and urged states and the private sector to do more on job creation. Take a look.
The reason why I said that the absence of specific solutions is not a complaint or a criticism, but par for the course, I want to recall a film from 1970s when I was probably somewhere around 10, 12 years of age. It was a movie which was first originally a play and then became a very famous movie, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, by the noted Tamil journalist, lawyer, actor, Cho Ramaswamy. And in that play, he becomes a prime minister. He comes as a Tughlaq, the emperor, and then he becomes a prime minister, and then he begins to address various problems, corruption, the national language issue, and then the unemployment problem. And for that, he simply says, look, all I will do is I'll keep talking on every dice and every stage that we have to solve the unemployment problem. And that is my contribution to solving the unemployment problem. because he said this is not something that I can address, I would simply say, I will say that this problem needs to be addressed urgently in every forum I'm invited to speak at. So the point, therefore, here is that I think there is an element of truth in what he said in that movie. We should ask ourselves, what can the government do on employment short of hiring massively by itself? Of course, I do agree that it can and must hire in some areas. In fact, according to a very good paper by Devesh Kapoor in the Journal of Economic Perspectives some time ago, India may be lacking in capacity. I'm not talking about capability, talking about capacity in terms of numbers in several areas. And numbers are indeed part of the solution in terms of government employment. But apart from that, to think that for every social or economic problem that there is a government intervention is not quite correct. We need to get out of that mindset. In the normal world, it is the commercial sector, those who engage in for-profit activity, who need to do the hiring.
Well, that's the chief economic advisor. Now, the Bombay Stock Exchange has released the list of 25 stocks that will be eligible for beta testing of T+0 settlement cycle from tomorrow. Under this process, purchase and sale of shares reflects in the demat account of investors 1 day after the transaction. Yash is standing by with more. Yash, what changes will this bring about for the markets?
Well, this is in line with what market regulator SEBI had also spoken about, which is the launch of beta testing when it comes to T+0 settlement. The Bombay Stock Exchange today has released a list of 25 stocks where this beta application of T+0 settlement would be applicable. This would be applicable starting tomorrow itself. And all these 25 stocks, which you can see on your screen, are under the FNO category. As far as, just giving a quick context to what T+0 settlement is, it is essentially the transaction or the trade which an individual executes on the stock exchange. The securities or the funds against that transaction will be credited to your demat account on the same day itself. As of now, we operate on a T+1 settlement cycle, which means the securities or the funds get credited the next day after the transaction is executed. But under T+0, it evolves to having credited on the same day itself. How will T+0 settlement cycle be implemented? It will be implemented in two phases, as per what market regulator SEBI has spelled out. In the first phase, an optional T+0 settlement is proposed for trades until 1:30 p.m. So, of course, trades till 1:30 p.m. will be executed under T+0 settlement cycle. The settlement of these securities will happen on the same day by about 4:30 p.m. In the second phase, an optional immediate trade by trade or instantaneous settlement cycle, which means you execute the trade and in no time the funds or the securities or funds get credited, will be implemented for transactions up to 3:30 p.m. and once that is done, the phase 1 will be discontinued. How will T+0 settlement cycle work? Essentially, the beta version will start from tomorrow on 25 stocks, as I mentioned. After that, about 500 stocks as per market capitalization will be taken under T+0 settlement, and this will be done in 3 tranches of 200 stocks, and about 100 stocks thereafter.
All right, Yash, many thanks for joining us. India's Met Department has warned of scorching summer with above normal temperatures from April to June. Mumbai has already recorded the hottest day of the season yet, with the mercury touching nearly 39 degrees yesterday. Bhuj in Gujarat has recorded the highest temperature so far at 41.9 degrees. The Met says the transition from winter to summer temperatures has been quicker than usual. So get ready for a scorching summer. On to a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Tata Power's MD and CEO Praveer Sinha expects power demand to grow by 9% during the peak of summer season. Speaking exclusively to CNBC-TV18, Sinha says the power company is ready to run at full capacity to meet rising demand, adding that the company will focus on capital expenditure on renewable energy moving forward. Take a look.
This year, the expectation is that we'll have about 260 gigawatt of peak power. Last year was 243 and the year previous was about 220. So I think you are seeing a huge growth in demand. Both in terms of energy also, there is the expectation of about nearly 8 to 9% growth. I think we are all geared up for this. Government has taken huge steps. Section 11 has been imposed. That means all the imported coal and other plants also have to run at full capacity.
That's Tata Power's Prabir Sinha. India and Israel looking to deepen their defence ties and will continue to develop high-level tech with India's Defence Research and Development Organisation. That's the DRDO, and that's the word in from Boaz Levy, the president and CEO at Israel Aerospace Industries. Speaking with my colleague Danish Anand, Levy said the company is keen to expand its footprint in India.
Approach is the key word, and that's what we are trying to do in order to meet Mr. Modi's vision for making India and for self-reliance. So what we are building here is a structure that will enable us to meet all of those challenges. The relationship is very strong, and in the last decades we are facing a lot of things together, and the governments between the two nations are working very well together, and the relationship is good.
On to a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Outgoing Consumer Affairs Secretary Rohit Kumar Singh has hit out at surrogate advertising for alcohol and tobacco products. Speaking to my colleague Timsy Jaipuria, Singh said companies will have to provide 3 years' details of expenses on brand extension promotions, adding that if the ad spends are out of proportion, it would mean that companies are indulging in surrogate advertising.
So, surrogate advertising is a way where the industry like alcohol and tobacco, they try and circumvent the advertising regulation, whether it is banned, and they try and use it as a extension of brand extension. And we engaged with the industry in Mumbai and also in Delhi, and we said, no, you cannot do this. And we also have set of guidelines ready, and we've also asked them that suppose sometimes they come with an excuse that I'm not selling this alcohol, but I'm just selling a glass or a soda water or a CD or drinking water, the mineral water. So we say, no, you have to give us detail, and CCPA, which I chair now, has just issued an order about a week back that they have to give us the value of the advertising on the extended brand vis-a-vis the actual revenue they get from the sales. Because any normal business practice will have you advertise in proportion of the revenues of that product. So if it is out of proportion, that means the surrogate advertising is being indulged into, and that's an unfair trading practice.
Well, that's the outgoing Consumer Affairs Secretary. India's aviation regulator has grounded some Indigo pilots after an aircraft hit a stationary Air India Express plane at the Kolkata airport. In a statement, Indigo said that there was, and I quote, a minor graze between a taxiing Indigo aircraft and another carrier, Air India Express. The airline said the aircraft involved was returned to the bay for inspection and necessary action. Indigo's flight from Kolkata to Darbhanga has been delayed on account of this incident. That's the latest coming in from aviation. Time for us to head into a break, but up next, Israel steps up airstrikes on southern Gaza despite mounting international pressure for an immediate ceasefire. That and more when we return. The Delhi High Court is likely to give its verdict on Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's bail plea today. He was arrested last week by the Enforcement Directorate in an alleged money laundering case linked to the liquor excise policy probe. Earlier today, the Delhi Chief Minister's wife, Sunita Kejriwal, said that he will reveal the details regarding the so-called liquor case in court tomorrow. Take a look.
इस सो कॉल्ड शराब घोटाले की जांच में ईडी ने पिछले 2 साल में 250 से ज्यादा रेड मार लिए। वो इस सो कॉल्ड शराब घोटाले का पैसा ढूंढ रहे हैं। अभी तक किसी भी रेड में 1 पैसा नहीं मिला, तो वो इस सो कॉल्ड शराब घोटाले का पैसा है कहां? अरविंद जी ने कहा है कि इसका खुलासा वे 28 मार्च को कोर्ट के सामने करेंगे।
That's Sunita Kejriwal, and Ashma joins us now with the latest. Ashma, take us through the action in court today, the arguments presented by Arvind Kejriwal's lawyers, and what we can now expect.
Well, like we just heard Mrs. Kejriwal pointing out, the remand hearing is tomorrow, and today was the first hearing that took place after a long weekend. Now, it is in response to this that Abhishek Manu Singhvi, appearing for Arvind Kejriwal, made a fervent appeal before the Delhi High Court for urgent grant of relief. They have sought immediate release. They're arguing that the remand hearing is anyways tomorrow. And if this remand is extended by the special CBI court, then this entire application challenging the arrest and the remand will become infructuous. So on that count, he opened the arguments by in fact taking a jibe at the courts as well as the ED. He pointed out that courts traditionally have been a little wary of touching what he called was quote-unquote the holy cow called the Enforcement Directorate. Further, he went on to argue and rebut some of the suggestions that the ED had made as a part of its own application, pointed out that ED has cited non-cooperation, but he argued that Kejriwal is not bound to incriminate himself by coming out with a confession, also saying that the ED has cited the possibility of perhaps possible tampering with the evidence. To that, Abhishek Manu Singhvi pointed out that this case was registered back in August of 2022, and if any tampering had to be done, Kejriwal will certainly not wait till March of 2024. Further, he crucially also pointed out that so far, there's been no iota of evidence with respect to a money trail or proceeds of crime leading up to Arvind Kejriwal. So on the back of all of this, urgent relief being sought, release of Arvind Kejriwal being sought. The Delhi High Court just a couple of hours back had reserved its order. We understand that it will be updating it and sharing its order in just a few moments from now. So clearly, all eyes on the Delhi High Court for today, and then basis what transpires today, the remand hearing tomorrow again will be crucial.
All right, Ashmit, appreciate you joining us. Now, the Indian government has summoned America's acting deputy chief of mission after the State Department spokesperson called for a fair and timely legal process for Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. Citing strong objections to the remarks, the MEA said the nations are expected to be respectful of other sovereignty and internal affairs. Parikshit joins us now with more. Parikshit, take us through what has transpired and the MEA's objections to the remarks made.
Well, perhaps this is the first time in the recent few years when the Indian government has taken up an issue with the US so seriously and at such a high level. And this is clearly to send out a message to the US government and some of the European economies that this is not done. You cannot meddle in our internal affairs, especially when an election process is on ground, is underway. So the Ministry of External Affairs summoning the Deputy Chief of Mission of the US Embassy here, who is actually the second senior most diplomat after the ambassador, and telling her that this is not acceptable from a fellow democracy. We have our own transparent and timely judicial process, and that judicial process has to be allowed to run its course. You cannot be casting aspersions on our democratic process. So that was a strong message that was delivered in a 40-minute meeting that took place in South Block earlier today. Before that, we had seen the German Deputy Chief of Mission here in Delhi also being summoned by the Ministry of External Affairs. Even Germany had commented on Arvind Kejriwal's arrest, and it had also said that it hoped that there would be a basic principle of judiciary and basic principles of natural justice that would be followed. And the Indian government said that this blatantly amounts to interference in our internal affairs, and this is not acceptable. So all these instances are being taken up very seriously, and India sending out a clear message that this will not be accepted, and this would be setting up an unhealthy precedent for the future.
Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. The national story is Uddhav Thakkre's Shiv Sena UBT has announced names of candidates for 17 Maharashtra constituencies. The party has nominated sitting MP Arvind Sawant from Mumbai South. Rajan Vichare has been re-nominated from Thane. The party has also given tickets to Anil Desai, a close confidant of Uddhav Thakkre from Mumbai South Central. Congress leader Sanjay Nirupam hit out at Thakkre's party, saying it seems like there is a plan to bury the Congress in Mumbai.
हमारा शुरू से आग्रह था कि आप 50-50 करिए, 3 सीट हमारा 3 सीट आपका, लेकिन जिस तरीके से शिवसेना ने जोर जबरदस्ती की है और एक तरह से कांग्रेस पार्टी को अपने घुटने पे लाके दे दिया है, वह निश्चित तौर पर शिवसेना के पूरे नियत के ऊपर सवाल करने वाला है.
In international news, Israel continues to attack Gaza despite a UN Security Council resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire during the month of Ramadan. Israeli Defense Forces have continued blocking Al-Shifa hospital, where they have claimed to have killed many Hamas fighters. Meanwhile, at least 12 people have drowned off the coast of Gaza while trying to retrieve aid parcels that had been airdropped into the sea. After the incident, Hamas called for an end to the airdrop, saying that they are offensive, inappropriate and useless. The U.S. Coast Guard has said that 6 workers who were missing since a cargo vessel crashed into the Baltimore Bridge have been presumed to be dead. Synergy Marine Group, the company that managed the ship responsible for the incident, has said all 22 crew members have been accounted for. The company also added that there were no injuries reported. The Indian Embassy in the U.S. has also extended condolence to all impacted by the incident. Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. The news will continue here on CNBC-TV18. Do stay tuned. There's a lot more coming up right after this short break. We're back in a moment.